Hey, what's up, guys? You can see the background here. I've been recording Chessable course, Butcher the Scandinavian. I'll let you know everything in time. Right now, I'm about to show you a Rubinstein variation of the French and 4 knocks. I'm going to take a little bit different course in comparison to previous lectures. Throughout the whole lecture, I'm just going to explain you throughout the tricks. So, believe it or not, everything what I'm about to show you is going to be based on the tricks. So, let's immediately get started. After French, e4, e6, d4, d5, knight c3, lately, since I've been doing lots of bullet and blitz games, I keep on facing almost on regular basis like 4 to 5 games daily, d takes c4. You take, and now they have 3 moves. They have Rubinstein, knight d7 with the idea of knight g and f6. They have the idea bishop d7, which is called 4 knocks, since we all know that the weakest piece in the French is the light square bishop, so they just want to give it up. And they have knight f6. So knight f6, don't bother yourself to take, don't do anything but play bishop d3. And anytime they take and take, you can just expect by these guys to go with the knight d7 and reposition this knight on f6. You will always go with the same trick. When they play knight d7, you'll play queen e2. I beat up 2 GMs, Marjanovic and Vladimir Ichevich, with this one. They both played knight f6, and I cannot even tell you how many guys I beat up, IMs, GMs, FMs in blitz chess. So this is a very nice trick. Bishop b7. Bishop e7, queen b5, you give check and win the bishop back, and you basically win a pawn for the rest of the game. Another thing is if they play bishop e7, you always need to know how to set up your pieces in the most aggressive setup. So let's go. Knight f3, castles. Castles, when they go knight d7, they want to go with the knight f6. You always need to play c3. You solidify your pawn structure, and any knight f6 you want to face with the better position for the bishop, bishop c2. Why better? Because you want to go with a battery with the queen d3. When they do b6, queen d3, bishop e7, rook e1, c5, bishop g5, you keep on developing your pieces, and now you threaten bishop f6 followed by queen h7 mate. When they go g6, you take control of and take tempo with bishop h6, play bishop a4, and boom, rook ad1. He's completely pinned, your pieces are active, you threaten d takes c5, you threaten so many other things as well. Completely lost position for black. Instead of this, I've been seeing bishop d7 4 knocks once in I don't know, like 5 or 6 games when they play Rubinstein. You go with the bishop d3, bishop c6, knight f3. That's exactly what you play against Rubinstein Classic. So after knight e7, castles, knight g and f6. Here, white has 3 good plans. White has a plan of going with the knight, a typical plan, knight g3, bishop e7, and Michael Adams move queen e2. And the idea of queen e2 is to support the knight jump. And the old gold rule of jumping with the knight on e5 is if you manage to jump with the knight on e5, you just solved all your problems and your game really looks good. So when you play queen e2, they gotta take on f3. What happens if they go castles? Now you have knight e5. It's from the famous game Michael Adams against Victor Korchnoi. D takes, and in that game, Korchnoi played queen d5 threatening mate. f4, knight d7, and then you just have a possibility to either kick this queen away with c4 or to go with the rook to d1. In all these positions, your position just look a lot better. Apart from these ideas and these moves, I would go with rook d1 or c4. Both are just fine. Another thing is knight d7, to just go knight c5 and harass your bishop. It's very important to remember that you go rook to d1, so you prevent knight c5 for the time being because you're about to attack on d8 queen. This one, and you have this beautiful knight h5 move. I like it a lot because we now threaten queen g4. We have lots of threats such as bishop h6, and when they go king h8, I like b4. I won few games like this because they cannot take because you have queen g4. I even believe in a few of my bullet games that's how I won the game. So when they play b6, because you're threatening b5, another beautiful thing, when they play b6, you have bishop a6. So take a look, the correlation between the rook, queen, and the bishop. Now, if they go bishop e7, you take, and boom, you win a piece. But if they go bishop a6, queen e8, you go b5, and boom, you trap a piece. So just like you see in all these positions, in all these variations, if we jump on e5, we did like 90% of the job. That's why they have to take, once we play queen e2 and threaten knight e5, they gotta go with bishop f3. We take c6. I can see here a dog, like down my building, barking all the time, but I can't do anything about it. So after like castle, c3. Why c3? Solidifying your structure, and in case of any c5, you can always take and bring your bishop back to c2. After rook e8, it's a classic approach. They have two plans. To either go knight f8, knight g6, hyper solid and almost unbreakable, or bishop f8 and e5. Here we go with the specialty h3. You just open up back rank and you're waiting to see what their reaction is going to be. I won few very nice games, even one tournament game, when the guys played knight f8 against me. So take a look at the plan. You just go a4. You're just hoping to push your pawn up to a6 and weaken on the light squares. They will all go with a5. And all of a sudden, knight, that shouldn't be swapped off because that doesn't help you anything, that pretty useless, could jump on a5 and h5, just goes back on f1. And now your knight goes on e3 and it goes on c4, controlling e5. Fantastic plan. And thanks to this plan, I won so many games. So I bring my knight to c4, and afterwards I restrict his knights, and especially this one on g6, and then I want to go with h4, h5. I want to go with king g2, but don't forget we have the bishop pair. In case of bishop f8, we go bishop c2. We're just waiting to see e5. Once it happens, now we're happy because the game gets open and we get a bishop pair, which is very likely to be a good game. So bishop e3 takes, bishop takes, rook e1, bishop c5, you go knight f5, and you just launch the attack. Your position looks very nice. You storm all your pieces onto the king's side and they can hardly defend. That's one plan with the knight g3. Another plan could be what Israeli GM Ilyas Miren likes to do, knight td2, followed by knight c4 and controlling e5. Here, bishop e7, rook e1, and knight c4. That's an interesting plan of harassing the light square bishop by jumping the knight on e5. But I like the trickiest possibility here, as always, knight eg5. So what's so special about knight eg5? Now, believe it or not, they only have one move. And that's not so easy to find. It's bishop d6. Because in general, people tend to go with h6. Then you sack the knight on e6. Very beautiful sack. Reminds me of Caspar the Blue. And after f takes, bishop g6, king e7, you go c4. When they take, you take by queen. You want to go with b3, bishop a3, but you also want to go with a rook e1. Yes, you're down a piece, but you're completely winning. After knight b6, rook e1, queen d4, bishop f4, rook a d1, and so many other threats. Queen b7, e6 is weak. They cannot develop and complete development of the king side, which makes their position being completely lost. Instead of h6, lots of guys tend to complete their development, or at least they try to do it, by making bishop e7. I won probably more than 20 games. Knight takes f7, king f7, knight g5. They can't play king f8 because of fork, and you win the queen. They can't play king e8 because of knight e6, threatening queen, taking on g7, and simply playing, for example, moves such as rook e1, attacking the bishop. Thereafter, you can just go with the knight f5. Or if knight g8 you take, now you already have like 2 pawns for the piece, and they have a pretty big king. And after queen c8, you go with a rook e1, threatening knight g7, and rook takes e7. They have to go with bishop d6 and bishop f5 in position where the king is weak. All his heavy pieces on the back rank, where he's totally pinned, and you threaten c4 and d5, this is almost winning. There is a third possibility. It's bishop f3. You take on f3, threatening on b7. They go c6, you go rook e1. And here, you just wait for these guys to do bishop e7 and to say, okay, I'm gonna breathe easier once I make castle. Nobody, you won't make castle. I'll go with rook takes c6 and you're lost. And because of that, after knight g5, bishop d6 in theory is known to be the best. And here I'm going to show you my specialty. Because everyone, there are like more than hundreds of games with a rook e1, h6, knight h3, bishop f3, queen f3. And this position is known as maybe tiny bit better for white, mainly because of the bishop pair, but black is quite solid. No, you go with knight d2. So knight d2 is my specialty. It's something completely new. I want to go with this knight here, but at the same time, I remain my opponent with a weak bishop, and he can't take an f3. So if he goes castles, I'll go rook e1, and I'm happy if you now play 5, because you're opening up the game, and that's good because I'm about to win some of your bishops. Bishop f3, knight f3, rook e8. You just take everything, and slowly but surely you keep on playing this position with a bishop pair, like c3, bishop e3, queen f3, h3, or g3. You're just a tiny bit better, but this is a long-term advantage. In case of knight e2, h6, which is a move that everybody does against me, knight f3. But now I'm having control of e5. And when they go castles, now I'm happy. I play rook e1. And now, if they go with a bishop f3, queen f3, e5, knight c4, knight takes d6, you have a bishop pair and a great attack against the black's king. If they go with the bishop d5, you just go c4, take by knight, and you just have once again slightly, but a long-term better. Maybe it's not even slightly, it's much better because of the pawn majority on the queen side, 3 against 2, and at the same time you have the bishop pair. Those are two things that we have to notice here. And finally, if they go with the knight d7. If they go with the knight d7, you play bishop d3, knight g and f6, and my specialty, queen e2. Do I have to remind you once again, hey, but looks like I'm about to, the whole plan by black is to swap off these knights and bring another knight. Dream on, baby. That's why I played it, and now bishop e7. Remember, I probably played more than 50 games like this. I played it. I don't want to mention how many games you will win like this. Lately, in all these bullet games, people tend to just try to complete their development with the bishop e7. You go with knight f3. They still don't have knight e4 as long as the king is on e8. You just go with bishop e7 and queen b5 next check. So they go with castles, and now when they take, it's completely different approach. Main move is b6. But before I show you what happens with b6, let me just show you what happens if knight e4. Now you take by queen and create a battery. Now you threaten checkmate on h7. They go knight f6, you go queen h4. At the moment, you threaten bishop g5 to go after the weak pawn on h7. So after queen h4, I've seen lots of games won by my students where their opponents tried to prevent bishop g5. Well, maybe you prevent bishop g5, but you don't prevent bishop h6, right? So after g takes, queen takes, you go with knight g5 or rook e1, rook e5, and rook g5 checkmate. They can play rook e8 followed by bishop f8 because of knight g5, and this is a typical mating pattern where bishop f8 doesn't work as a defense because of bishop h7. If they take, it's mate. If they go with the king, it's made by the knight. For all of you who are wondering why I'm showing you a little bit faster, because you can always pause the videos and check these lines. If g6, you play bishop g5. I'll show you a nice Russian miniature. The guy played b6. What happens if knight e5 trying to exchange everything and to simplify the game? Rook a2 e1. Why? We gotta keep this rook, so when they take, now we threaten mate here, and they go h5. By the way, any knight f6, always a golden attacking rule. First stick your queen on h6, and then go with the rook lifting and mate it. So that's mate. If h5, now you're gonna see the benefits of having the rook here. At some point, we can even go with f4 and f5. Rook e5 provokes this guy to play any f6 because of knight a6, which is lost. And after bishop d7, solidifying, which stops knight b4. And then you just go with g4, and you're just opening up the king and win there. If queen h4, g6, bishop g5, and they go b6. I found that old Russian miniature where the guy played c4. I was very confused. Why c4? And after bishop b7, nobody sees the following trick. d5, he takes, and rook e1. Now you want to take on e7, and afterwards win the knight on f6 as well. What a beautiful tactics. And in case of queen h4, g6, bishop g5, this is what you have to know. This is why most of these guys, when they realize that the knight e4 is simply almost leading to a lost position, they just try to play against me b6. I have tons of these thematic matches where the guys start with knight f6, queen e2, then they blunder once this trick. I play bishop e7. Then in the second game they go bishop e7, knight f3, castle, castles, and then they take on e4. Then I crush them with a battery. And then in the third game they just say, okay, my weakest piece in the French is the light square bishop. Let me just solve the problem of it by playing b6 and bishop e7. You say, okay, I got rook e1, bishop e7, and watch out, because they want to take and exchange everything. You play knight g5. And look at this. All my games go with h6. In case of h6, you just take on e6, f takes e6, queen e6. If king h8, boom, knight h4, and you just go with this one and win. In case of rook f7, bishop c4. And most of these guys, for some reason, think, okay, at least I'm going to have 2 pieces for the rook. Pause the video and find it. Boom, queen takes e7, and you win the piece. So after knight g5, rook e8, boom, you play knight f7. And for example, a known trick, and for example, this is what I always give my students when we work on calculation. Somehow, intuitively, everyone goes with queen e6, but nobody goes with the knight g5. Knight g5 wins. If king f8, it's fork. If king g8, it's a well-known smothered mate like this. So just like you see, the whole lecture is based on the tricks. You say, but I can survive. After rook e8, knight f7, I'm going to first include this and no more knight f3. Knight g5. G takes. King f7, queen e6, and boom, bishop c4. Just like you see in this lecture, I'm also teaching you how to use like this typical tactical ideas against the French. So after queen e2, they can't play bishop e7 and passive approach almost loses. Knight e4, bishop e4, knight f6 for probably 20th time. I just explained you that it doesn't work. And they have to go with c5. Here, if you first take, d takes, bishop d2. And there is a very interesting thing. I found more than 10 games on a really high level. Barayev lost to Anand, then Van Velde lost to Anand and Morozevich, and everything within 20 moves. And all these guys went for queen d5. All you have to remember, queen d5 looks very terrifying, but it's nothing, because you play king b1, queen g2, knight f3, and all you have to know is that when they win the second pawn, queen e5 is just fantastic. I'm going to show you one of these games. For example, against Wishian, and Van Velde played knight e7, bishop h7, king h7, queen h5, and didn't go with the knight g5 because queen f5 would defend, but went with the rook h to g1. And after bishop e3 exchanged, played rook to g3, wants to go with a rook h3, wants to go with the knight g5, and wins the game. If knight f6, queen h4, I played a blitz game once, knight e4, knight g5, threatening mate, forcing the queen, and won the game like this. Then I want to show another thing, another game played by my student who played against an IM. IM was black, played queen b6, a very common move in blitz. You go knight f3 and you don't care about the pawn. An IM and most of my opponents take on f2. Rook h to f1, they bring it back, knight e5. This is a good thing because now you have these French typical knight, open f-file, and great bishops. After knight e5, they go with bishop e7 or bishop d4. If bishop d4, they threaten mate, and they threaten knight. You defend, you harass the queen and defend. They go queen c7 and c3. Kick the bishop away from defending knight, and once it moves, it's time. Rook f6, queen g4, and queen h4. I remember when Gligoric won many years ago like this, threatening mate and pawn on f6, and after f5, queen f6, bishop h6, and mate is unavoidable. It is avoidable with the queen f4 like engines. So knight f5, bishop e7, g4. Those who just protect everything, you just go with g4, bishop c3, and take a look at these bishops that point out onto the king side. also saw one game with the knight e5, queen e5, f6, queen h5, f5, g takes, e takes, bishop c4. They can't go with the bishop g6 because of rook g1 and queen h6, so it's mate. It's a nice mating picture. And or you'll lose a piece, or if king h8, rook e1, bishop f6, boom, deflection. You're just forcing the rook to take, in which case delivering back rank mate. You threaten rook e8 and so many other things. Bishop cannot be developed because it is going to be lost. So after long castles, I want to show one more game. The guy tried to solidify himself and play bishop e7. You always go with the same plan. Knight goes on f3 and it goes on e5. It's called French knight. When you reach that knight e5 square, then you will go with f4. You will move your rook to f1 or e1, and you will start pushing g4 and g5. That's a plan. So when you learn like this, you won't have problems. Take a look at the following game. The guy played queen c7, knight e5, rook d8, played f4. There is one more king b1, solidifying, and play g4. There is one more important thing to remember when the f7 is weak, and that's exactly what happened in this game. The guy played knight e8, came up with p-sec, queen h5, queen f7, g6, and after queen e6, this guy couldn't defend the checkmate and resigned the game. Just like you see in all previous games, we've just could have seen like lots of tactics. And finally, queen c7. Well, do I have to explain you? Should our plan look any different? No. So you're about to check my game. I played knight f3 because, by the way, I played this game against another IM. So this was a rapid 25-minute game for each one of us. I believe plus 10 seconds, sorry. So after knight f3, you just want to go with the knight on e5. If b6, you go knight e5, f4, place the rook on f1, and go g4, g5. Let me show you a game of grandmaster from Brazil, Matsura. After rook d8, bishop g5, knight e5. And remember, your knight always goes here, plus if the rook moves from f8, you always go knight f7. So after bishop d7, you go boom, bishop h7. What a lovely trick. You can also do the same thing by taking on f6 first. And knight cannot take because bishop is hanging on e7. So after king h7, first takes on f6, then give check, then take here, and took on d7. Usually we just go with this one, but here it wouldn't work because of bishop g5 check, and then he would be able to cover himself probably. And finally, my game. My game, 25 minutes against an IM. The guy played bishop d7. I just said, okay, I'll reach the e5 square with the knight. I have my famous French knight. Rook f to d8. I was already happy, and I kept looking at his weakness. I played g4. The guy played bishop e8, and then I said, okay, he's familiar with the following tricks. He's about to defend the pawn on f7. Let me just carry on with my plan. Played rook ac8, and I said, okay, I teach all my students to put a king in safety. So that's what I did it. And I said, I'm going to keep waiting on this guy. He played knight d5, and I played rook h to f1. Nothing. I just keep on developing my pieces in the most logical fashion. And he went with b5. He's provoking me to take, but I didn't want to take. I just continue my attack. I played queen e4. He, like looked at my face like this, like, okay, would you be up for a draw? That actually shaking a head like this, and his movement was suggesting something like that. I moved my queen on e1 and clearly showing him, no, I'm gonna mate you here. So after queen e1, my queen goes here. He went with b4, once again provokes me to take on b4, and all of a sudden, instead of attacking to give him chance to attack me, I played g5, knight e5, and I played f5. I like when I open up everything and attack like this. The guy captured, I captured by bishop threatening rook. He played this, and I played queen h4 threatening mate. He played g6, and a specialty of the game was knight g4. Knight g4 because now all of a sudden I have all these threats with knight f and knight h6 especially. He went with h5, I captured. he can't do anything else but king h7, and he felt kind of confident at this point because looks like he just stopped my pawn movement, and he threatens to take the bishop. I played rook d on e1, which was a specialty here. He didn't expect the real point of this move, and he didn't even realize he captured an f6. I captured, threatened mate, and when he played like this, I came up with this one. When he played this, I played bishop f4. And your question, why did I play that? Because now he would have that possibility with rook d1 deflecting my pieces from some threats and some attacks. Here, I'm threatening queen, I'm threatening bishop e5, and he's about to get mated. My opponent resigned at this point since he couldn't defend the checkmate with bishop e5. Hope you enjoyed the lecture. Subscribe on the channel, tell your friends about it, and of course, sometimes support the channel by some donations. Enjoy the analysis and all the best.